Welcome to Stage Dive, a podcast where we go deep on the art of live performance to help artists perform better on stage. I am your host, Jack Dawkins. I am a rapper, poet, and storyteller out of Boulder, Colorado. Welcome to another episode of Stage Dive. Tonight my guest is Aquariius. They are a bearded drag queen living and working down in Florida. And what I love so much about this conversation is that it showed me how little I know about the world of drag. I learned all about drag families, I learned all about drag houses, and I learned about just how powerful and connected the world of drag really is. And I mean that on both within the United States and also on an international level. It's unbelievable. This conversation was beautiful, it was vulnerable, it was insightful, and it taught me so much. I'm really grateful to Aquariius for sharing their time with us. I know you will enjoy this, so please, without further ado. Okay, so the first question I have for you is, what are the trophies behind you? Where do they come from?
I'm glad you noticed that. I specifically made sure that they were in my shot. So right now, they actually are trophies from two different pageants. In the world of drag, we have drag pageants. And as a bearded artist, as myself, there actually is not a lot of bearded pageantry because bearded artists are not really respected in the drag pageant world. So we have actually created our own pageants. There are two major ones right now. And I actually went and tried my first pageant. It was a prelim called National Southeast Bearded Queen. It was my first pageant ever. And I won the title. And so it allowed me a ticket into Nationals, which is National Bearded Empress. And actually just about 2 weeks ago, I won the entire thing.
Gosh.
And those are all my trophies. So I am your current reigning National Bearded Empress for 2023.
Amazing.
Yeah.
This is going to sound so silly. It looks like so many more than two trophies. Are they just like so grand that there's so many of them, or tell me?
No. So the way the pageants work is there are different categories.
Okay.
So you have, for this one, for instance, it was a presentation, kind of an introduction to yourself, a talent, any kind of talent you want to do. And then sometimes they do evening wear or gown. This one calls for a high fashion look. And then there's also an on-stage question and answer. So people can win those categories individually, and then you can also win the whole thing as it. So for Southeast, I actually swept the competition, and I won every single category. So that's why I did a lot. And then for National, I won 3 out of the 5 categories. So I do have a good amount of trophies over there. And there are a couple that I've won back in my career that are not so big, more like bar titles and stuff like that. But it's kind of my trophy case for right now.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
Thank you.
Did you have like my ignorance to the world of pageantry is like profound, but like, what do you think allowed you to be so successful? Because I think you just said these were your first two, at least in this context. What helped you perform at such a high level?
I also have been doing drag for a very long time, which has very helped me. I've been in the drag scene for about 11 years now. Okay. And before I did drag, I was a musical theater kid. And I loved everything about, I was a techie first and then onto the stage. So that really kind of developed my ability to create a show. And for me, that's what the pageant was. It was a show. So I took each category as like a story, and then I built a story around that, and then made sure my looks kind of fit in with that. So I think that's really what made me excel over anyone else. They all did fantastic, but I think what really set me apart was I took a moment, I read the categories, I looked what they were looking for, and then I wanted to tell a story with it. And I think that is really what excelled me. I'm an Aquarius. So
how fitting, amazing.
How fitting. And so I'm a very huge over planner. I everything needs to be perfect. And I can only blame myself if things don't go right. So if I make sure everything is set and ready, and just having that mindset of treating it like a theatrical show, everything has its place. It really helped me because I wasn't panicked during the pageant. I knew where everything was. I knew what I was doing. And I think that preparation is really what set me apart and allowed me to win. most definitely.
Yeah.
And of course, my experience, and of course, experience that, that's the one thing that we can never, it's the one thing that you can't buy or train into or anything like that. It
Yes.
just comes with the, have been doing it for a long time.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going a tiny bit out of order because what I want to do is go back to the beginning and then move forward. But before I do,
Yeah, totally.
I'd love the depth of preparation because again, I think it's something that we as artists don't talk about, but an incredible amount of work goes into one song to perform one song. The amount
Hmm.
of times I'm thinking about which hand is the microphone in, when is it in that hand, where am I moving on stage, how am I making eye contact, et cetera, et cetera.
Hmm.
But my question to you is, how do you navigate when something not in your control goes sideways?
Not well. um,
Appreciate your honesty.
yeah, no, it's something that I have learned to be better with over my years of experience because I have done shows where things don't go right and maybe it hasn't been necessarily my fault. And I think what it is you kind of just have to tell yourself that's what happened.
Yeah.
We don't get to control it. That's what happened. You can choose to be upset about it and let it dictate your life and kind of let it, ruin things, or you can choose to move on. And I think that took me a very long time to do, and I still struggle with it as well. I won this national pageant, and there were a couple of things that messed up that weren't necessarily on my end, and it bothers me. And I get into it. I'm thinking, oh, what if it had changed? And I'm like, you
You
won.
won.
Like, why? Well, yeah. Why does those matters? And sometimes you just have to, you have to either look at it and be like, how could I have prepared whoever did mess up a little bit better for the future so maybe that doesn't happen? Or was it a tech issue? How do I solve that for the next show?
Mm.
You can either choose to grow from it or you can just kind of bubble in it, which it's okay to bubble in it for a little bit. We're human. We have to feel those feelings and express them because, of course, it means you're passionate about something. But at the end of the day, if it's not helping you for that next show that is going to happen, what are you using it for? Just
Yes.
to be mad? Just to be mad? I got enough in life that makes me mad, all right?
That is deeply relatable.
Yeah,
Um,
and
uh,
and not, that stuff is not always malicious as well. You know what I mean?
oh my God, of
Shit
course.
happens. Yeah,
Yes.
shit happens.
Yeah. The number of times I've had like the speakers aren't quite working or the microphone is a little goof. And again, yeah, of course, like no one sabotaged the microphone, but you still have a shitty mic that you now have to perform. And it's like, okay, so what do you do about that? Okay, now we get to rewind a little bit. So theater kid for sure, but I'm interested by the fact that you started as techie. Why were you drawn
Yeah,
to that role within the world of theater?
I mean, it was sixth grade. I think a girl that I liked at the time was doing it, and so I kind of got me into that world. I have always been a little more on the shy side. So I think I wouldn't really go out and audition for a part, especially in the sixth grade, a new middle schooler or something. It just wasn't me. And so I think a girl definitely got me into it. And I just like had so much fun being backstage, seeing the magic, and it just spiraled from there. And then we didn't have drama classes until high school. So once I got into high school, then I actually started taking like acting classes and I got involved with community theater and stuff like that. And that's kind of how it started. But honestly, it was kind of a left field for me. I didn't really, I wasn't the one listening to musicals all the time. My
Mm.
family wasn't huge on them or anything like that. I just saw an opportunity. I took it and I was like, wow, this is really cool. Like this is to see, behind the stage and everything that how it works. I'm definitely interested. So it spawned a demon, a musical theater demon.
Well, I mean, it spawned a lot, obviously, which is beautiful.
Yes.
Um, Before that moment in sixth grade, did you have any inclination toward performance in any other areas of your life, or was it really just kind of out of nowhere?
Kind of out of nowhere. I tell people the performity of life was my first start, and just navigating the world as a very queer child. And
Mm,
that sixth grade time was very pinnacle of um, a lot of children. That's kind of when people start to notice, you're different and stuff like that, and
mm,
kind of have it being brought more to your attention and starting to learn words and stuff that describes people, putting actions. And I'm not saying sixth grade was the first time anyone ever called me gay, because it was definitely not. I was, probably in third or fourth grade, and I had no clue what that even meant.
mm,
I had no clue, but obviously something about the way I stood or I spoke or the actions that I gave off or anything. It gave some whoa, I can't speak. Inclination that something was different. So I think kind of I was very shy. I would never go up to a bartender, ask for change to play video games. I'd make my dad do it. Even though I was going to play video games, someone always had to do it for me. And I think when I got into theater, it made me a little bit more confident. You find your people, you do find your people, and it makes you a little bit more confident. But before that, I did like those third grade plays that they force you to do in elementary school.
yeah.
Um, and I always enjoyed them. But I wouldn't say that I was a performing kid. Now, when I was little, my mom definitely has videos of me in high heels and tutus with Gasparilla beads on, dancing
Mm,
around to Fantasia. Um, you know, on recording performing that way. So we always had some sort of inclination that I would be in dresses at some point. But yeah, before that, as a child, I really didn't.
yeah. Oh, that's so interesting. The I don't intend to pry. I'm curious. The nervousness of asking the bartender. Where do you think that came from?
I really don't know. I think I've always had an issue with people telling me like no.
Mm,
Like most people, it's not a huge thing, but I'm not sure what it was. And it was that way with everything. It was anytime. Oh, you go ask me that? Can you do it for me? Can you do it for me? Can you do it for me? I don't know if it was like because I felt different or if it was just because I was a kid and I was nervous. But a lot of that has trickled through my life as a thing. Scared to ask for opportunities, scared to do this, and um, drag actually really helped me be a little bit more confident and not be scared of no's, because unfortunately in life no is a word we're going to hear a lot, and it's about what we do moving forward. So I don't know where it came from. I really don't. But I think it's just from being a scared child.
yeah. But I mean, it's wonderful that your art has been a way that you could find more courage, more bravery, more
Oh,
confidence.
more than you even know, like
Yeah,
more than you know.
yeah. So middle school, start as a techie. Then in high school, you get more opportunity to sort of step into that role, and you're finding a
Hmm.
community of humans where you're like, I feel seen here. This is more connected. This is more authentic. This is all sort of
Hmm.
working. Um, were there any big moments in high school that were defining for you that sort of made you realize how big a part of your life this either was or could be?
Yeah, so well, I came out in the seventh grade, middle school, like because like I said, it was people were telling me before I even knew it, I was very queer, it was very hard to hide. So I came out in seventh grade, so I at school had friends, my theater friends. They were my people, but that was only at school. When I left school, I would go home. I would go upstairs in my room by myself, get on the computer. I was a child of the internet, because that's where I really found my people and people I could talk to, and I could be myself
Mm,
without any, because these people I've been going to school with, elementary school, but they knew who I was. These were people who I didn't get to, they didn't have a preconceived notion of who I was, and they also were okay with me being gay. So it was, I spent a lot of time on the internet by myself, and finally, when I was my end of my sophomore year, I joined a community theater It's called the Acting Studio. They're out in Lutz, Florida. They're actually now in Wesley Chapel, Florida. Um, and they became my safe space, my in life space, safe space, which I didn't have. You know, my safe space was isolated by myself. Although I was talking to people on the internet, and I always felt like I had people there, I was literally alone in my room
Yes.
by myself. So when I joined them, it really pushed my love for myself. Because if you've never been in a room full of theater kids who just think the world of you, it's, you know, just the love, and anything I did was, that was spectacular. That was amazing. And I've always been a dancer. So, you know, I went into this musical theater, and now they want me to choreograph things. And I was, you know, leading, you know, dance classes and choreographing things for shows. And it just, I had never felt more important in my life. And when I realized I was spending all this time with these people, and, you know, we're having sleepovers, and I kind of just like looked around, and I remember thinking, like, these will be the people that I will know for the rest of my life. Like, people come into your life and they're there for reasons, and then there are people who come and they stay. And to this day, some of us are in Atlanta now, Denver, they're all over. We've all kind of moved. Christmas is a time we all tend to come back, and no matter how long it's been, how, you know, far we've been apart, we come back like it's nothing. And I think I needed that in high school. That was my moment when I felt I deserved to be in this world, you know, because I have people who need me, you know, that I rely on them, but they rely on me, you know, and I feel that, you know, it's not, um, I didn't, you know, in high school, I felt like I was always asking people to hang out. You know, no one was ever really saying, "Oh, hey, do you want to join our group? You want to join?" And I had those friends. I hung out with them every single day. But when we went home, you know, they would do stuff on their own, but I never was invited. And so to have this group, you know, they're messaging me, "What are we doing tonight? What are we doing this day? We're having a sleepover, game night. We're running lines. We're going to practice this dance." Um, it was that push and that need of, like, you're important, you know, and at that time I needed it.
Yeah.
So I'm very thankful. That was the time in high school when I joined that theater group. I realized that there's a space for me in this world.
I mean, there's a space, there's an opportunity to grow, there's an opportunity to teach and share, right? Like, it sounds like there were so many.
It was things I never thought I would be doing. It was things
Yes.
I never thought that I would be teaching a middle school class a whole dance so that they can practice and rehearse. It was, and then get to see them go on stage, and they're having so much fun when they learn. You know, they learn a step that was really difficult to them, and they finally do it, and just seeing their joy. Like, I never thought that I would be able to teach anyone anything, nor would I feel, you know, accepted for who I am. Like, it was my saving grace. It was what I needed.
I love that. So then coming out of high school, you have this community. You've now, the way I would describe it is, found opportunities to both give and receive love in a new way, which is sort of changing the way you perceive yourself, the way you love yourself. When does drag start to come into the picture?
So I entered my first gay bar when I turned 18 on my 18th birthday.
On the day.
And I tell people I never left. You know, when I had that community of my theater friends, it really showed me what community meant to me and how important it was. And so I graduated high school, I immediately went to hair school. And as I was going to hair school, I was going out to the bars and kind of meeting people and kind of engrossing myself in the gay culture. And it was fascinating. I was hooked, you know, because growing up in Wesley Chapel, if you didn't have a car, you stayed in Wesley Chapel. You know, you don't get to experience with things, and you can't learn culture too much from the internet, especially back in those days. You know, we didn't have as much information about everything that's going on right now. So when I got into those bars and I saw this sense of community, I immediately was like, home, another home. This is what I need. This is my people. So I started going to this bar. It's called Valentine's. Rest in peace. No longer there anymore. They had a Tuesday night talent show night that I was there at every single week. I met the host of the show. Her name was Amanda Bone. And I was there every week. Me and my really good friends from high school, we would go all the time. His name is Gary Cohen. We used to go all the time. And one night he looked at me and he was like, "Do you want to do the talent show with me one night? Like, compete?" And I was like, "Yeah, yeah, let's do it." It was after high school. I was no longer doing theater stuff. I hadn't left my community theater just yet, but I wasn't doing shows with them because they're a high school,
Sure.
stuff like that. So I had kind of lost thing. I was in hair school, so I was feeling very, very creative at the time. Um, and so I said, "Yeah, let's do it. Let's try it." And so we planned on the night. We were going to go in. Amanda Bone, who ended up becoming my first drag mother, she painted both of us, and I remember being late because I had school and I was late to get there. And she was like, "Well, you're gonna look like how you look because you got here late." And I said, "Okay." And I put on Forever 21 dress that my best friend since I was little gave me, and some whiteout contacts and a terrible synthetic bob wig. And I did Britney Spears' "I'm a Slave for You." And it was just like exhilarating. It was amazing. And Amanda Bone, the host of that, actually has a huge drag family called the House of Bone. And so I was put into that house as Leanya Bone, which was my first drag name ever. And yeah, and so they were my first family. Every single one of them, I had older sisters who started teaching me how to do makeup and taught me how to perform, and what it meant to care for one another as a family, and what it means to have the ability to have chosen family. And so that was the start. It was the start of something I honestly had no idea would spiral into what it's become.
Yeah.
A random Tuesday night in a very dark, small bar on Armenia Street. It was it was amazing, yeah. And actually, to this day, it's funny. Gary, who is now Jade Embers, is actually who we started together. Is actually the head diva of Southern Nights Tampa, and has been working in Ybor since then. Like, is the biggest name in Ybor right now. So I think that's really funny that we're both still, the two of us are literally both still doing drag and doing it very well. So yeah, but that was the start. That was
The
the dipping the
Genesis.
toes. Yeah,
Yeah.
dipping the toes.
Um, I have a couple of questions. The first one is like, I hear and I love that you had this found family at the community center, and then at this bar, and then eventually with this drag family. Did it ever feel like you were sort of living two lives?
Mm, not not that much, I would say. Um, my family, my actual family, has been super supportive of me. I really actually never really came out to them. Again, it's that whole like just being nervous and telling them. But just one day, I just came home with a boyfriend, and it was that, and it was like after high school and stuff like that. So it wasn't really that big of a deal. So they always knew that I did drag and stuff like that. So it's never like I was like trying to sneak out with like drag stuff and like not telling them stuff like that. And then of course my theater friends, they were coming to my shows and stuff like that. So, um, it never really felt like I was living like two lives or anything like that. Definitely, in the beginning when I was attempting to pass, it felt like that, but I say attempting very loosely. But I've never felt like I was living two lives.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Um, the second thing is when you got the opportunity the first time, did you feel any resistance? Were you scared? Like, what was it like, sort of deciding for the first time, like, I'm going through this, and I'm getting painted, and I'm putting on a dress? Like, you didn't like dip the toe in. You went balls deep,
Yeah,
to borrow a phrase.
well, like I said, so there was no resistance. No resistance.
Mm.
I was ready. I wanted to. Like I said, I have videos of me when I was 4 or 5 years old, spinning around in the tutus, having a full meltdown, crying panic attack because I wanted the bigger tutu because it flared out more when you spun, but it didn't fit me. So I was very upset with that. So I knew that I would feel comfortable in drag. But it is the performance part. I always get nervous. Even to this day, I still get a little nerves in my stomach before I perform. What I tell any new performer is that the nerves means that you care. It means that you care about whatever you're doing. It means your body is telling you, like, you got this, you can do this, like, you care about what you're doing. So there was no resistance. No, no, I was ready to do it. I was so excited. Um, and I had, of course, done my makeup here and there once or twice, but
Mm.
to do the whole thing, I was just nervous about the performance aspect of it.
Yeah, yeah, that makes good sense.
Hmm.
And
Absolutely, because this is a 4D theater, bitch, and I will step off the stage and into it. Yeah, I am going to be your co-hostess with the mostest tonight. Basically, what I get to do is I get to welcome you into our home. So if you are a queer person, hi, welcome home. And if you are an ally or you identify as anything other than queer, welcome to our home. We invite you in. How you doing?
then drag family, is that
Hmm.
super common within the universe?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. Yeah, because and it's not even really drag families. Yeah, drag families are important, but just queer families in general, because I am a very lucky case of having very supportive parents. It's mostly not like that.
Mm.
So, especially back in the day, now it's getting a little bit better. People are waking up a little bit. Um, but it was extremely common in the normality, really, of queer youth not having parental figures and older queer people taking them under their wing, having them move in with them,
Mm.
feeding them, making sure they got to school. It is extremely, extremely common. Um, and it's something that we hold very, very protective. That's why you hear our chosen family, our chosen family. It's because we get to choose those because the people who are supposed to love us probably maybe don't love us.
Mm.
So we get to choose the people who do love us, who care about us as a person. And it's very, so drag families, yeah, they could be a little not as extreme. Some people have drag families where it's like, oh, it's just their best friend and, blah, blah, blah. But then you have queer families and stuff like that, that is the reality. They might live with that person. They might have helped them along and stuff like that. So it is extremely
Yeah.
common. It is extremely common.
That's so wonderful. Um, and it sounds like it was fairly structured. Like there was a distinct mother and you had siblings, and like the people
Hmm.
kind of, did you have aunts and uncles? Like, is that a thing?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah. So it is. And it just depends on the people,
of
honestly.
course.
It's with drag families, it's just kind of being fun. Right now, I do have my own house. Is the house of meow, and I have two children who actually do drag. It is Ripley and Eden Ness, and that is my family. And then I have my best friends who I've been doing drag with our entire careers. Crystal Rains, Maya Valentine, Jade Embers, and all those people. So they're my sisters. I call them my sisters. So they have drag children. And so then our drag children, they'll call each other cousins. And then I'll see maybe my friend Crystal's daughter, Blue, and I'll say, oh, that's my niece right there. That's my niecey and auntie. So it is. And it just depends on the people. But that our group, we're very like, oh, that's my niece, that's my aunt, and stuff.
Yeah.
It's just fun. But yeah, it's you can have big families, small families. They're all shapes and sizes.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and also certainly such an incredible support network, but also such a valuable resource to learn. How does this industry work? How do I get on shows? Like, who do I talk to? Where do I get costumes? Like, I think one of the things that's easy to underestimate is when you're just starting to perform, it's like the number of things you have to figure out just to get on stage again. Like it's a lot. And I think drag has even more layers of things that you are trying to navigate and take care of. And then pageants level beyond.
Hot, sweaty layers.
Yes, very hot, very sweaty layers.
Yes.
So you start in drag. You have this wonderful drag family. When is Aquariius born?
Okay, so have you ever heard of anything of like the ballroom scene?
Barely.
Not like dancing like ballroom like
Then
this,
definitely
but like
not.
dancing like ballroom. Okay, so I'll try to keep it quick and as fast. I implore you to look up a documentary called Paris is Burning.
Okay.
It's a documentary about the queer ballroom scene. So the ballroom scene was born in New York. It's an underground competition ball, basically like a drag pageant, but it was for the Black and brown queer community of New York that came together, and they wanted. This was back in early '90s and stuff like that, where the AIDS epidemic was really destroying our community, and these children were being thrown out of their houses. This is kind of where like the houses came from. Drag house, stuff like that. That all stems from ballroom. So in ballroom, you have all the houses, and they all come together and they compete in these balls. So the ball category is just like a pageant. You have a category, and then you walk the category. And if you are fabulous, they give you tens, 10, 10, 10s across the board. That's where it comes from. And if they don't like you, if one of them doesn't even like you, you get a chop and you're done. And then after you get your tens, you go and you compete against the other people who get your tens, and whoever wins gets a trophy. So the balls have a ton of categories. There's fashion categories. There's runway categories. There's Vogue categories, like Madonna's Vogue, but like actual and not the stuff she stole. And no, I'm just kidding. She helped Vogue get on the map. And then there's like realness categories, and realness categories come to how well you can pass as a straight person in the real world. You don't give off gay vibes, which obviously I'm not realness at all. But so that is the ballroom. So those are ballroom. So I got into voguing off of, I saw it on America's Best Dance Crew. There was a Vogue team called Vogue Evolution, and there was a dancer named Laomi on there. She is one of the mothers of ballroom, which at the time I had no idea who she was. And I wanted to learn to Vogue. So, of course, I was out in the club, I was doing this fake voguing that I thought was so good. And I met other Voguers in the club, and they kind of introduced me to the ballroom scene. And they were like, do you want to be a part of this? Do you want to walk and compete? And I was like, yeah, this seems like something I really want to do. So I started in the ballroom scene, and I needed a name. So at the time in drag, I was doing Leanya Bone, blah, blah, blah. And so I have always really related with my zodiac sign. Anytime I read anything about Aquarius, I'm like, wow, that's me to a T. Holy crap. So I was like, okay, I'll be Aquarius Infinity from the House of Infinity. That was my first ballroom house. That's who I represented. And so that was kind of it. So then I started walking balls. I started, people were starting to get to know me. And the mother of the House of Infinity, DJ Power Infinity, came up to me and she was like, girl, who are you? I need you to just pick a name because you can't be this and you can't be this and you want to be this and you want to be that. And I said, okay. I was like, I really relate to Aquarius, so I think I'm gonna pick Aquarius. So that's when I switched. I switched to Aquarius Infinity, and that was my drag name for the next 3, 4 years, 5 years until I left the House of Infinity and I just became an Aquarius. Mm-hmm.
And are the houses like, are they regional, national, international? Like how?
Oh, international.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Now they're international, but there's a ton of them. House of Ebony, Revlon, Milan, Infinity, Balenciaga. They're normally named after fashion houses,
Okay.
but they're all over. They're House of Ninja. Have some in Japan, and in Paris. They're everywhere. The ballroom scene is a really big. They had a show called Legendary on HBO that was all about the ballroom scene. But a lot of drag and a lot of drag vernacular comes from the ballroom scene.
That's so interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So when we were before we even started the interview, you were explaining sort of your relationship to Aquarius, and
Mm-hmm.
I guess, how do you think about her in your mind? Is she a persona? Is she another person? Is she another spirit or soul? Like, can you just talk about the dynamic between the two of you?
Um, People always ask me this. I'm always like, "Oh, I'm the same person. It's the same me." It's just me. But I don't think I definitely describe her more as a personality and person, kind of. I am very similar when I'm in drag as I am as a person, but I will say I am a lot more quick to speak my mind in drag, a little bit more quick to push my ideas and really fight for what I think is right when I'm in drag. And I think the biggest thing that I've actually taken from Aquarius was my comfortability in my gender identity, because I always knew that I didn't fit with this man title that people kept trying to give me. And it's not that I don't feel masculine, but I don't think it's hard to explain sometimes, but I don't really feel like a man, nor do I really feel like a woman. Definitely, I definitely don't feel like a woman at all, but there is definitely a femininity in me that I relate more to that side. And I had such a struggle. I still do, but I still have a struggle of putting it into words and ideas. And doing drag and developing Aquarius kind of let me feel comfortable because I have my beard. So when I'm in drag and I feel so glamorous and beautiful and sexy, but then I see this masculine trait that's supposed to be masculine, my beard, my facial hair, my body hair, it gives me that gender euphoria kind of feel where I'm like, wow, like I'm masculine, but I'm also really, really feminine, and I really love that. And I never really had a word to describe that until the whole non-binary, not idea, but verbiage came into play, where I sat and I was like, okay, yeah, like I don't have to be man. I don't have to be he. I don't. It makes me uncomfortable, um, but I don't have to be she because in my views, I feel I would be insulting someone who is struggling to, present she and stuff like that. I don't want to take that from them, but I do feel that feminine side. So I love this idea of non-binary where I don't really fit on the scale. If the scale is like this is masculine, this is feminine. Some days I live here, some days I live here, some days I live here. It changes with my mood, how I'm feeling, my mental state at the time. And drag was really that catalyst to allow me to feel really comfortable in being masculine and feminine. And so how I identify myself as non-binary is I do prefer they, them pronouns out of drag. I am okay with he pronouns. What I do not like is hypermasculine pronouns. So I don't like sir, even though my Instagram name is Sir Meow. It just has been so long, I can't change it. I don't like sir, buddy, dude, bro. man. You can see by my face, even saying them just like makes me upset. I do not like being called those. And I think that is what also was like, okay, something is, a little different because it really forms a pit like here when people call me that. Um, so I'm very thankful for drag to allow me to kind of explore that. And for drag, that is a huge part of a lot of people's journeys, especially with being trans, especially with stuff like that, is drag is normally that first taste of what it feels like if maybe you present it a different way.
Mm.
So I know that is for a lot of people. But as far as like the personality, I think she's just more of a bitch, and I'm a I'm a pretty big bitch now. I've learned to find my voice and stuff like that, but she's always not scared to speak her mind, always able to put the little guy first, and is not scared to say something that maybe others don't agree with, and the kind of backlash from that. I'm kind of known in the community sometimes for speaking up on things that maybe other people won't, and getting a lot of backlash for that. And it doesn't bother me because I know that it's important to me and it makes sense in my mind. And I don't think if I had drag, I wouldn't have that confidence to really do that.
Yeah. Um, I'm sure this is individual, but I'm
Hmm.
curious, like, does drag feel more like performance or more like self-expression?
I think for me, it's a little bit of both, but for the most part, it's
Mm.
performance because I am that theater kid in my head. So when I get dressed up, I'm putting on an act, I'm putting on a show. Some people are like, "Oh, you're so different. Oh, yeah, because I'm getting paid to be someone else right now. Like I'm getting paid to entertain you and be this persona that you all love. Like, um, so I think maybe the act of being in drag is more performative, and then like my performances themselves are more of myself kind of
Mhm.
self-expression. Because what I've done since the beginning of my drag career is I have always performed what I wanted and not what I thought audience wanted,
Mm.
which some people do. They feel like they have to conform to get booked to do this. But what I learned is if you perform what you love to do, the people who love that will find you and then they'll follow you. And then the venues that do like your stuff will search you out, because I would be, if I was up there in a gown doing ballads or just doing music that I didn't like, Taylor Swift or something like that. It just wouldn't make me happy. I would
Mm.
be up there dreading doing it, but I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna do this Metallica song, and I'm so excited because maybe someone has never seen a drag queen do Metallica and headbang before, or or I'm going to do a really theatrical theater thing and do all the choreography from the Broadway show and make it feel like I
Mm.
can't wait for them to see it. So it's just, and I feel like the being in drag is a little performative, and then my performances themselves are my self-expression, and also how I dress and look. Obviously that's self-expression 101 right there.
Sure. Yeah. Um, what goes into building out a set or a performance? Like, how long does it take? How much do you rehearse? Kind of what does that look like?
So it really depends on what the venue is and what the performance is going to be. Like for this pageant, I was preparing for months and months and had multiple rehearsals and fittings, and but I have a show every Wednesday at Cocktail St. Pete at 9:30 where it's just an open mic stage show, and those performances I'll think of the day of or on my way to there. And how I build a performance is typically I start with the song first. You know, what do I want to perform? Once I find the song, then it kind of goes into the look. What feeling am I trying to give? I'm not gonna wear my bright neon outfit if I'm doing a dark, sultry song.
Sure.
I always build my looks off of what song I'm doing. And some people don't do that. There are queens, I know queens that they bring 4 or 5 outfits And right before they perform, they email the DJ and they're like, all right, I'm gonna wear this. I can't do that. I need to know exactly what song I'm performing, exactly what outfit I'm wearing, what hair, what shoes, what jewelry goes with the look. And those are typically how I do just random club performances and stuff like that. And that's a way I build a lot of my shows is I listen to the music first, I figure out what I want to portray, the feeling that I want to invoke, then I go for the look. Then what am I gonna wear? And then that will transpire into like the makeup and stuff like that.
That's so interesting.
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned earlier that even within the world of drag, the category or the grouping of bearded drag can be controversial, or I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I think you said looked down upon. Can you talk about that dynamic and why you think that exists?
Yeah, absolutely. And I will preface it all by saying it is a lot better nowadays. But mind you, I started drag 10 years ago. And when I first started doing drag, I shaved, I did everything. And what I noticed was I was breaking out a lot. My skin was really irritated. I was starting to get actual shows and to shave again and again and again and again. It was irritating the living daylights out of my skin. I'm Italian Ecuadorian. I produce the most hair on my body. It's ridiculous. So it was just too much. So I started doing bearded drag. And I remember Aquarius identifies as a drag queen, as a bearded drag queen. I do present myself female in drag, and that's how I always been. There are some drag artists who don't fit, they would prefer drag artists, not drag queen. That's not I. So when I was doing it, I was in my head presenting as feminine as I could, all this stuff, and I would get called everything but drag queen. I get called a club kid, androgynous, and all that. And I was like, no, I'm a drag queen. That's just it. That's fine. I just have a beard, So in Florida, the drag is very pageantry. Florida has some of the best drag in the United States, and I'm so lucky because I've gotten to grow up with it. But it is very pageant drag. Boobs, hips, nails, hair, earrings, painted, no facial hair, nothing. The art of female illusion is what they would call it. As I fought and stuff like that, I just kept doing what I wanted to do. They could call me whatever I wanted. It didn't really matter to me. But we always get the things, well, why don't you shave? Because I don't want to. You're being lazy. Well, I'm not being lazy because I still trim all like I still trim my face into a way. Oh, well, you're not giving female illusion. Okay, well, maybe that's not what I want to give. Maybe I'm trying to give you extraterrestrial female illusion. It's they always want a reason to kind of look down on it and not really look at the art that's in front of them and try to judge it to other things. So for a long time, people wouldn't book me, all this stuff, until I kind of made them. I made them see my talent past the beard. If they don't like my makeup, that's fine. They don't like my beard, that's fine. But what they're not going to deny is that I'm a talented person and I can perform. So, I did the talent shows, I did all of the things, and I built a name for myself. And I finally got that booking for my Wednesday show as to be a co-host. And that was kind of like that first thing where people were trying to, okay, bearded drag is something that can be lucrative here in Tampa and stuff like that. Now, mind you, bearded drag is not new. I'm not breaking any new barriers. I'm not doing anything that hasn't been done before. The Sister of Perpetual Indulgence, who are bearded artists, have been doing this since the 70s. It's nothing new. It's just people have this mindset that they think that they know everything and that nothing can change or things can be tweaked and stuff like that. So even to this day, there are bars that will not hire me because I have a beard. They have, and it's not like they're like, oh, well, maybe we'll just find a spot for you, or it's no, shave your face and we'll hire you. And maybe back in the day that might have hurt my feelings, but there are places that want you, and there are places that will hire you, and those are the places that you have to look for. And that's what I did. I stopped going to venues that wouldn't hire me on a normal night, stopped giving my time to them, and I invested all my time, effort, and money into the places that didn't could care less that I had a beard, because I was entertaining, I did my job, and I was giving them a show that they wanted. So it's gotten a lot better. There's a huge mainstream of media that is alternative drag, is what they call it. Um, but I think finally bearded artists are being more respected, and it's really nice to see, as being someone who, in my area, I will say, of Tampa, I was the only bearded girl around. I inspired people in my area, like Adriana Sparkle, who is the director of Cocktail, the entertainment director of Cocktail, to start doing bearded drag. So it's, the visibility that I provided it means a lot to me, because I know of a lot of people who were like, oh, I shaved I didn't want to shave, but I shaved because I wanted people to take me seriously. And and I felt bad. I was like, no, this is your art. Like, you get to dictate that. That's the best part. So it's getting better. It's gotten a lot better, but there still are going to be those people with everything that think it's lazy or don't get it. And if you just don't get it, then don't try to get it. That's okay. If you don't like my performance art, go ahead and walk away from the circle of the stage. Go get another cocktail if you're thirsty, and wait for the next performer, because the next performer may not have a beard. So.
It's really interesting describing that process of identifying something within yourself that was true, which is like, I want to have facial hair, both for a very practical reason, but also because I exist within this sort of non-binary space, and I like having these masculine features and these feminine features. But it's a great parallel to any artist who's just finding their voice. And we can be drowned in feedback about like, well, this is what hip hop looks like. This is what pop looks like. This is what this looks like, right? Like, you get so much like, if you want to make it, you have to do blah, 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 blah. So I would love to hear from you, because you navigated it so successfully. It sounds like, either what advice would you offer to someone who is feeling stuck in between, like, this is what I love, but this is what I'm hearing, or even what advice, or you found yourself, sort of like, what positive things were you saying to yourself to feed your soul? Because at some point it grates on you when you're just hearing over and over again, you're doing it wrong, you're doing it wrong, you're doing it wrong.
I think what I always tell people when they first start is go to the talent shows, or the spaces that are holding places for artists to perform for free, and start performing there. Get out there and do your art your way, because what is going to happen is you are going to attract the people who love your stuff. My child, Rip Lee, they were just getting out on the scene, and I was doing shows over in St. Pete, and they were competing in Tampa, and I kept hearing this buzz in my ear, oh, you have a new child, you have a new child, you have a new child. Like, I'm going, what? No, I don't. I don't know who they're like, oh my gosh, this Rip Lee person they're just like you. Their art is just like you. Like, you're going to love what they see. And I was like, I don't need no children. I am not doing this. What are you talking about? And then I saw them one night, and I saw their drag, and I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. Okay, I understand. And I went up to them, and I was like, hi, everyone keeps telling me that you're my drag child. I just wanted to meet you. Your drag is amazing. And they were very thankful, and we just started hanging out. And we started hanging out. We became friends. They became my child. And I started giving them my knowledge and my information and everything that I could to help them grow, because they do an alternative drag style as well. It's very spooky, crazy, blood, guts, gore. It's not your normal cup of tea that people like. So I started teaching them how to how to host or how to hold themselves or how to speak. Because at the end of the day, drag is a business. And you can be a drag queen who performs or a drag entertainer that performs, and that's great. Or you could have a business with it. And I think that's sometimes where people, they miss that mark. They think, oh, I'm just doing drag. I can make a job out of this. But they don't realize that it's a lot more. It's about promoting yourself, mingling, networking, doing all this stuff. So when I brought them in, I started sharing them all my information, and now they're hosting their own shows. They're doing this, they're doing that, and they're working for the places that want them, because they had that person who saw their drag for it and gave them the knowledge. So when you go out there and you perform in places, maybe you're not trying to win, maybe you're not trying to get a booking right then and there, but you never know who's in that audience. You never know who's watching you, and someone will love your drag for what it is. And then also, and they'll come in, they'll love you, and also search out those people, find people whose drag you respect and you love, and because those are the people who are going to hype you up the most. Don't be an alternative spooky entertainer and then go find the most pageantry to the T entertainer and expect them to give you information other than you need to change your drag. You know what I mean? It's like,
for sure.
Surround yourself with the people who just want to see your art form grow, because it's not always just flowers and love and stuff. I tell Rip when they have done a bad job, or when they need to work on this better, and but it's sent from love, and they know I'm not asking them to change their drag. I'm saying, hey, you could probably do this and it might help you with this. And I think that's the biggest thing that new entertainers need to surround themselves with, is the people who love their art and are willing to nurture it in a right way. You need to surround yourself with those people, because like I said, community and family, like that is extremely important, and they will help you grow the most.
Yeah,
definitely.
That's beautiful. The last topic I want to make sure we hold space for is that legislatively, Florida's got some weird shit going on right now that I know is affecting you personally. So I'd love to hear from your perspective. How is that actually sort of playing out in the scene, in the clubs, for shows, and what's the conversation like?
Unfortunately, the conversation right here, it's pretty gloom and doom. We all know who our governor is, so we don't really have to go over that. But we have, as a community, seen this before. It's nothing new. When Republicans feel like they're losing control or power, they all come together to find something to attack and to push the blame somewhere that so they can seem like they're doing something important for a cause. So this cause is for the children. They're all about the children. The Republicans want to save the children from the groomers and the pedophiles, which is drag queens, apparently. What they're trying to do is they are saying it's for the kids. They want to make it illegal for any parent or guardian to bring their child to a drag show. This is anyone under the age of 18, so a minor. They still will allow you to take your child to an R-rated film if you deem worthy, or any sort of concert that may have music, or your local Hooters that has, women who are dressed in, very scantily clad, that you might, the same thing at a drag show. So what they basically, I'm trying not to get too upset because I get very worked up about this topic. They are seeing how much they can kind of push, and they can kind of put their toes in the water. So the first thing that happened in Florida was the Don't Say Gay bill. It was a bill that said that anything K through third grade You cannot talk about gender identity or sexual preference or anything like that. Now, we say sexual preference and it sounds like we're talking sexual and all this stuff, but that literally means a teacher who has a photo of their partner on their desk has to take that down. Susie with her two moms can't talk about her two moms in class because it's against the rules. Teachers can't have safe space stickers in the rooms, and okay, K through third, not too big of a deal. Still not okay because, as I've told everyone before, they're seeing how much they can kind of push before anything pops. So then they did it, revised it one more time. Can't use pronouns. Have to use pronouns on their birth certificate. It's very detrimental if you've never been called something you don't want to be called before. Pronoun-wise, it's not a fun thing. Now, they have pushed the Don't Say Gay bill through 12th grade. And as I told you before, I came out in the 7th grade. I knew who I was. I knew who I liked. And most of us know who we like in high school. That's part of the high school experience. You know what I mean? Yeah. But there are, straight, heterosexual children can be free to explore who they are and figure out who they are. But now, gay kids cannot. And that's what we're saying is that they're saying it's for the kids, but it's not, because this is going to push them in a really bad direction. I was the president of the Gay Straight Alliance in my high school. There's going to be no gay straight alliances. There's none of these places where these kids can maybe get out of a home who doesn't accept them and go to the one place where they can feel accepted and safe is no longer that anymore. They have to wake up sad and go to school sad because they don't have that protection anymore. So now moving on. So those are the things being attacked for the children. Now, any laws about gun reform? Nothing. Nothing is going on. Nothing. And we have so many documented cases of guns in school than we do, gender pronouns hurting someone, or my teacher is gay and now my whole life is ruined. And so now with the drag, oh, and also, sorry, I'm jumping, but the trans, they also passed the trans bathroom laws. So now these trans kids can't even use their bathroom of choice, which is so scary for them, because some of these kids have had the opportunity to transition early and to start kind of living their life as who they identify as, and now you want to put them back in the bathrooms with the boys. High school, middle school boys are not nice. They're not nice, and they are going to hurt these. They have, and they will. And it's not protecting them. It's putting them in more danger, honestly. But it's only putting the queer children in danger. And that's the whole thing, is they want to protect the cis heteronormativity that they believe in of children. But when it comes to queer children, they don't care. It's silence. So now it comes to these drag show laws. And what they are doing is they're trying to make it scary for ally businesses to hire drag performers into their spaces. They're scared they're going to get their licenses removed. And that's not even the law. The law is not you can't have drag at places. The law is if you as a parent choose to bring your child to a family-friendly event, drag event, you can lose your rights as a parent. Go to jail, have a fine, have that child removed from you. Now we have other queer children in foster care. We're supposed to be caring about these children, but you want to take their parents away from them for choosing their rights as a parent to choose what they want to do with those parents. So we have already lost gigs. We have already lost brunches because people are getting bold. They are getting bold with their threats and with their hate, and allied businesses, unfortunately, they don't want to deal with it. I don't want to say that because it sounds rude, but they don't want to deal with it. They're scared for their own business, you know, which I respect. I get that. But that lets them win. You know, we're it's sad because these groups are getting more and more bold, and it's scary. You know, in Tennessee, they have an actual drag ban, a public drag. That means no drag at Pride. In Florida, that could be also the same as well. No drag at Pride, which drag is such a pinnacle part of the gay culture. It was drag queens and trans women who threw the first stone at Stonewall. They were the beginning of the revolution of the gay rights movement and an intricate part of queer culture, and they're trying to get rid of it. And it's really sad. You know, we're having literal Nazis show up to drag queen story hours to intimidate and threaten, and the police won't do anything because it's their right. It's their right to legally protest this as a Nazi in 2023. Drag queens are humans, we're adults, we're not dumb. We know when to be child appropriate. My show, not for children. I know that. I don't want to be around a child. That is not my job. But I have so many brothers and sisters who that is their passion. They do fundraising all the time for Trevor Project, for children in need. They do, you know, the drag queen story hours that allow small queer children to see someone living their truth and being happy and hear books about other people. They keep wanting to say that it's for the children, but everything is really just not allowing queer children to see representation. And it means a lot. It really does. To see someone who's different like you, especially as a younger age, that would have meant the world to me. It would have made me feel a lot less alone. All these bills are happening. They are happening. And just last Tuesday, I got to be a part of the largest drag entertainer march on a Capitol that there ever has been yet. Drag entertainers from all over Florida, Miami, Jacksonville, Pensacola, Orlando, Tampa, St. Petersburg, places that I've never heard of, Melbourne, all these places, I've never heard of Melbourne, but all these places, we all came together, organized in the Capitol, and we marched in the Capitol, and we went into the Capitol building, and we screamed and yelled and clapped our fans, and the bills have already passed. When we went in there, we already knew that they had passed. They're literally just waiting on the governor's desk to be signed, and we know he will sign them. So sometimes it's not doing it about the change right then and there. It's about visibility. They cannot deny that we do not exist anymore because we were there. There were over 1,000 of us screaming and chanting, and it was an honor to be a part of it. And to hear speakers who walked in the civil rights movements, to hear them speak about this, who were at the first, gay liberation movement, who were there as well. This is nothing new to the queer community, this attack. And we've only gotten louder, stronger, and there are a lot more of us this time. So we didn't do it because we thought we would change their minds. We did it for the people who need to see that, who are sitting at home scared maybe, and see that we're not backing down. I might be upset, I might cry, every day. And when I think about this stuff, but I'm not scared, and I won't be scared, and neither are my brothers or sisters. We're not. We're ready. The first Pride parade was not a parade; it was a riot. It was a riot, and we are not scared to riot again. You think that you've seen angry people, see some angry drag entertainers, okay? Not only will they be angry, but they will also insult the living daylights out of you and tell you about how terrible your outfit is at the same time.
Oh my goodness. One last question for you. What would you like to see, or what would support look like from people who are around the community, tangential community, who want to be supportive?
Yeah, so almost every single show that I've had, I've gone over the same little speech. If you're a queer person, wake up. They are awake as fuck and they're paying attention and they are doing everything they can to take away your rights, and it's happening. So wake up, vote in your state elections, because we are a country governed by our states. So if you just vote in the big election for president, congratulations, thank you. But also, you're not doing much work. The president only has so much control. We are a country governed by our states. So vote in those state elections. Vote in your local elections as well, because they're very important. And if you are an ally and you go to gay bars or you go to our queer spaces, if you've been to a bachelorette party or if you watch RuPaul's Drag Race, I need you to vote like an ally. When you are in that voting booth, think of every drag show that you've ever seen and vote like it. Queer people are a minority. We are still a minority, no matter, I forget it sometimes, because I'm so surrounded by my queer community that I forget that we are still the minority out there. So we need your help. We need allies' help, because we're not doing it without them. We don't have the people for it. We literally do not have it. So my thing has been, please wake up. Support your local entertainment, not just the RuPaul girls. Loving drag is not just loving RuPaul girls. They were local girls first. Go out to your queer events, support them, and vote. I hate that we live in a world where we have such a small choice of who we can vote for, but at this moment, that is what we can do, and that's what we have to. I don't believe left and right. I think that needs to be demolished, but at this time, that is what's happening. And so we need to live in the now. It's great to think of the future and what we want for the future, but currently how things are being passed right now, we have to do it that way. So if you don't believe all of one side, maybe the blue side, as much as, you think of an independent, unfortunately right now, one side is voting against us and one side is not putting those bills up. They might not be helping us as much as they need to be helping us. And don't get me wrong, and I'm always there to hold people accountable. And I think that's another thing, we need to vote for these people and then we need to hold them accountable. I see all these people who come out and speak to the queer people and they're always like, I need your help. This is what I'm going to do for you. And that's great. And I love that. I want to see the follow-up. And I think we as queer people need to hold them more accountable. I think we're getting complacent. Life has been good for a while. Gay marriage was passed. Things were looking up. And then shit like this happens. And it happens out of left field and it escalates. There are anti-drag bills in so many states right now. For what? For what? Are we going to get rid of Shakespeare? Like, are we going to get rid of plays and music and movies and Mrs. Doubtfire and all these things where we have been seeing drag represented and hetero, lifestyle for so long now? It's at the end of the day, it's not about children, like they're trying to say. It's not about drag. It's about erasing queer people.
Well, thank you so much for sharing your passion and your truth, and for giving everyone a clear light of how we can be helpful. And this conversation was wonderful. So thank you so much for taking the time to spend with me. I really appreciate it.
No, yeah, thank you. Like I said, we need people who are willing to listen to our stories and willing to just sit back and listen as a very flamboyant drag queen rambles for an hour. We need that kind of support, and I'm thankful. So thank you very, very much, because I don't know who is going to listen to this and be like, wow, I do need to do something, or wow, I do need to go support that, or wow, I've never been to a drag show before. I want to go see one. So it's these little things that we can, that we can do is really what makes it. And so when it was brought to my attention for this interview, at first I was like, okay, well, what are they going to ask? Like, what are they looking for? Because it's scary right
For
now.
sure.
It's scary in this world. I don't know if I was going to get up here and you were going to call me a groomer and all this stuff. And so I was nervous at first. And when I was given what you would be asking, I was like, no, this is someone who really wants to know the art behind, being a drag queen, because I see myself as a drag queen, but I also see myself as an artist.
Yes.
And I'm very thankful. So thank you for listening.
Oh, you're so welcome.
And thank you for listening to the problems and not just, show me your costumes or show me your wigs or do a backflip. You really care about the issues that were happening right now. So thank you.
You're so welcome. Thank you. Thank you so much for listening to Stage Dive. I'm having so much fun having all these conversations and meeting these wonderful, wonderful people. But I appreciate that this is also going out to you, the person who is listening. So my request, my ask, my desire, if you have any curiosities, questions, guest recommendations, suggestions for the podcast, please send us an email at stagedivepodcast@gmail.com. We read every single email that comes through. We will get back to you. And we really do want to hear what you love about the podcast, things that you think could improve, and how we can make this a better show for you. So please don't hesitate to reach out. Thank you so much.